All right, good morning. Gonna open the meeting. It's 10:22 at 9:03 a.m. Can I get a roll call, please?
Tiffany Gatesman.
Abby Samuelson.
Katie Souls.
Bill Palmer.
Parks Thompson.
Lori Hannon.
Steve Fitzgerald.
Angie Nichols.
Greg Beckler.
Harry Young.
Nick Crab.
Right. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
I'll change
Aye.
it.
Aye.
And motion to approve the consent agenda?
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll open it to the open forum. Any comments or? Okay, I think we can move on to a discussion of the DDA work plan. All right. Not, you made better.
Okay. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes,
Can you
ma'am.
hear me? Okay. I'm gonna get cozy with Garrett over here because this mic doesn't, I think it needs batteries, but so I sent back out the work plan again with some revisions. I am really looking at this as a, what was that?
Oh, geez, really?
As a working document that we will continue to revise as we go. I was talking with Troy a bit about it. Troy's online with us. Troy Bernberg, we'll have him say hello in a minute, but he indicated that it seemed a little ambitious compared to other DDAs that he's worked with for a kind of 1-year time frame. And I think that's probably accurate given that the DDA has no full-time staff and, just working primarily with the board. So I think there's a lot of great items in here. I think it nicely kind of lines up with what we want to hopefully get done over the next kind of year or two. But I think we might just have to kind of scale some things back and just kind of narrow in our focus as we go. And maybe play around with, Ayers had suggested priorities. I changed a couple, but I largely left what Ayers had in there. But I think some of the priorities we might shift based on what we can kind of realistically undertake and where we want to focus our energies, as well as kind of the timelines for things. So I wanted to open it up to any further discussion if there's anything that people wanted to change or see modified. Otherwise, we can make a motion to kind of just adopt it as a working document and continue to revisit it. Just in terms of kind of our immediate work plan and things that we have going on, Troy is working on that financial and investment policy. And so we're hoping to look at that at our November meeting. And then in December, we're hoping to have Cushing Terrell, the consultants for the comp plan, kind of present their conceptuals for the Riverwalk district and get your feedback. So those would kind of be the big items for November and December. I apologize. I feel like we keep having jam-packed agendas, and I promise they should shrink as we move forward. I'm somewhat worried about having enough to do at some points, but we are not there yet. So
Gonna be a while.
yeah. So I know everyone's eager to actually start doing stuff. So hopefully we can get through all of the documents and formation stuff and those items. I should back up and provide the update. The Board of Trustees did approve the plan of development, so we're all set there. I'm confirming with the lawyer just to make sure we're following all the steps we need to properly notify the assessor so somebody can't come back a year, 10 years from now and tell us we missed a step. So once I have that confirmation, we'll send that on to the assessor and should be good to go with getting the tax increment from this past year. So kudos to everybody for all the work with that, because that's, I think, a huge accomplishment. we really did do that kind of in lightning speed, but I think we still did it in a way that was very intentional and thoughtful and have a nice solid plan to work off of. So that was a lot of jumping around and scrambling, but I'll just open it up to any discussion or thoughts on the work plan. And I wanted to touch on this before we get to the budget, as this obviously informs the budget.
What's the yellow?
The yellow I should remove before we finally, the yellow are items that I had highlighted to go in there and edit. So they do represent ones that have been edited from yours. There may be some other edits. Yours had focused primarily on kind of the downtown Riverwalk vision and conceptual as our first area of focus, and hiring consultants to do that. But because it's part of the scope of our comprehensive plan for the town already, we are just going to have the DDA work with Cushing Terrell on providing input into that versus hiring consultants and using our budget to do a separate conceptual design.
And I saw that the prioritization here is by entire category. So finance and investment policy is P1, as is the
Yes.
downtown Riverwalk vision. Aren't there elements though of some of the others that might elevate to that same priority?
Definitely. And I think what I would suggest is as we revisit this in January, we break those down further.
Yeah.
Because I was having the same issue, but did not actually go in there and break them
No, I
down.
get it.
Yeah.
Because that was my only real concern, was that, you know, but there are some things that should be elevated to P1 and there are some things in P1 that aren't, so.
Right. And there's some things like working through a budget plan. Obviously we need to create a budget plan now. I think that was listed as P3. I would see that as just kind of as we move into the budget, the end of next year, having a little bit more structured of a process. We'll know, have a bit better idea of what we're doing, what we want to prioritize, what all of this looks like. Whereas this time around, we just adopted the plan of development. We're just adopting kind of a general work plan. So it's a little bit more general.
I don't have any additional comments. I think because it's a dynamic work plan, we can definitely reassess it every quarter and reassign priorities as it seems necessary throughout the quarters and the year.
Yeah, I like that there's a plan.
Yeah.
That's good.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. Keep us moving with all the elements that we'll be looking ahead to. And
There's some
fabulous. Good work, Sarah. Executive Director.
Yeah, so and like I said, I think our first meeting in January, we would bring this back up. We can break down the priorities more and move them around as we see fit. I envision the first quarter of next year really being focused on the business enhancement grant and making sure we've got a solid plan. We might have time to talk about it some in December, but how are we going to promote this to businesses? The board has, the budget is not approved finally yet, but the idea is that there's a bit more money in that pot and that we're going to better advertise and really promote this program. And so we do have that March 1st deadline for receiving kind of full consideration. So really focusing the first quarter on getting the word out on that. What does it look like in terms of the recommendations that are made by this group to the Board of Trustees? We can talk about this as we talk about the budget, but does the board want to potentially provide any supplemental funds in that area, or maybe help with matches if a business isn't able to provide their own match, things like that?
I think it would be good to have the marketing blueprint. I was just putting in my schedule what date I would actually present that at, like what meeting, because I think that would be the outreach, like having a plan for us supporting the towns, the sharing, and then I think already getting like the biographies. I might just send out a general request for that, or request your assistance with that, to get a picture of everybody in a biography, to just start pitching that into the social media.
Okay.
And then move into more of a content driven plan.
Yes.
Just introduce everybody, just keep it basic while we do all this other stuff.
Okay. And you're talking about like website and social media.
Primarily social media.
Yeah.
Because we don't really, I guess it would be on your website too.
Yeah, and that's actually another priority that I would probably move to the top is just, I don't think we need to develop a full-blown website at this point, but just looking at the town's webpage and that content needs to be updated. I can work on that some, but yeah, if we want to include like biographies on that, we definitely could. And that's something I think we could start working on, either the end of this year or starting out in January of next year. I would recommend moving forward, we focus on one meeting a month unless we really have a lot going on, maybe during budget season, there's 2 meetings, or maybe when we're, reviewing the grants, or, if there's a reason to have a second meeting, we definitely can, but as a general practice, I think one meeting a month is fairly standard and would make sense. But so Abby, back to your point, I don't know if this is exactly what you're suggesting, but I think it was, but if you weren't, I think we should do it. But we can add into this meetings where we're actually discussing things and kind of future agenda items to keep us on track in that regard.
Yeah, because I mean,
Yeah.
I want to present like an actual blueprint, like a quarterly, like the marketing, I'm gonna just pre-program and push. But I think to kickstart that, it would be like right now, people could be sending a headshot of some sort that's quality enough for you guys, for Sarah to approve for the website, and then I would push that into Instagram.
Okay.
And that would be like the first sharing and launching, and maybe a few like, what is a DDA? And I could just pull that from the websites,
Okay.
and just do super simple stuff.
Does that
Not
work? for
sharing like what
everybody?
we're doing.
Okay.
And back to the one meeting a month. Are we there yet? Will that be starting in next year in 2025?
No, I think so, particularly given that November, the end of the month is Thanksgiving, and December, the end of the month is December. We'd have to reschedule those 4th Tuesdays, and I would anticipate that a lot of people are traveling and have a lot going on. So that is what I would propose, that we do one meeting a month.
And
I think we'll have what we need to close out the year and be ready to start up in January.
and the enhancement grants, you'd want to be a top priority for January,
Yeah.
correct? Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna work on getting the town website updated in the next few weeks, so that information will be on there. But in terms of the DDA's role and really pushing it out, we could start talking about it in November, December as well, if we want to get an earlier jump on that.
I don't want to get too crazy, but like, if you're familiar with, when you go onto an Instagram profile, you can click on a button. It has the list of different links a profile is offering you quick access to. That's where we could integrate direct channels to the website. So like if you go to my personal profile, you can click and then it says like 6 different websites. And so we could provide like a direct link to the business enhancement grant document to where people don't need to go to the website and look for it, which would be nice. So the accessibility, I think, would be the primary goal of the social media plan.
Quarterly.
Awesome.
I mean, let me ask the business owners here, if we're promoting this stuff in November, December, does that make sense? Or if we're looking at a March deadline, does January work to really start pushing that stuff out?
Well, I know December is gonna be ridiculously busy for any service industry.
That's my
And they're
thought,
not gonna have time to check their own email probably, so.
right?
I think January would be better as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Shoot for 2025.
I mean, as long as it doesn't hold us back in some type of way, you know?
Yeah, so we had landed on a March 1st deadline for priority consideration, given that most people are doing these projects in the summertime typically. And then if there's money left over, applications will be considered on a rolling basis as they come in. Yeah, and we can try it out and shift things around for, the next for 2026. Because in the past, it's just been a rolling basis. So I'll go ahead and put the DDA online marketing a P1, and then I'm just gonna check and see what the grants were listed as.
Where's the agenda, the discussion of matching those enhancement grants? Or is that a discussion for later?
We can talk about it generally as part of the budget. Yeah, so that's coming up for. All right. Any other thoughts? Troy, don't feel like you have to say anything brilliant, but did you have anything to add?
No, I think this is great, for the context of working with other DDAs. Yeah, I think you guys are putting enough on your plate without maybe biting too much off. I think the work plan is ambitious, but it gives you a really good outline of kind of what you'll be working on, and it gives you kind of an idea of scope for how long these things take and who's involved. So I think it's a very thorough and informative work plan, and I think you guys are in really good shape.
The only other comment I'd add is my guess is at some point in doing the finance stuff and the vision stuff, particularly where there's brainstorming, and if it's facilitated, a couple hours probably ain't going to cut it. And so there might be a time in the spring where we decide to spend the morning or something like that, so that we have fulsome brainstorming, can report out and then make choices in an informed way.
Yeah, definitely. I think that makes sense. Okay. All right, if someone then wanted to make a
Yeah,
motion.
I'll move
to-
that we adopt this plan as written as our baseline, what's it called? EDA work plan, subject to future modifications.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Testing. All right. I'll get less cozy with Garrett. Let me go ahead and do a new share. I wanted to talk really quickly before we get into the budget about some of the upcoming opportunities with DCI. In part, I don't necessarily need a full-blown commitment at this point, but one of the aspects of the budget is just kind of professional development, trainings, conferences. So just trying to gauge general interest, availability, and some of the stuff coming up. So when we have the budget discussion, we can talk about that. So do. So a couple of quick things in terms of upcoming events for DCI. They have ongoing webinars all the time. Most of those are free for us since we have a VIP membership. One event coming up that I believe the last time I checked, they still had space in. They do an annual tax increment finance summit. It is in Pueblo, so it's a bit of a trip for one day. It's from 9 to 4. I definitely don't think it's necessary, but wanted to throw that out there. I kind of blocked out my calendar, but have not committed personally. So that would be one option coming up. And then the big one in terms of the budget would be their annual In the Game conference. I do think it would be great if we had a couple people attend. This one would be in April, the first week of April, 2025. I'll talk about the challenge program in a minute. You can attend whether you're involved in the challenge program or not. But generally, the first couple days they have some activities isn't the right word, components that are specific to the challenge program and challenge program participants. And then they have a number of different sessions, and it's just great networking and to kind of see what other DDAs and URAs and downtowns are doing around Colorado. We do get, last year we got one free membership with the VIP membership, but it is buy one, get one free. The full event price, I think if you register by December or something, is $395 for members. They also have first half and second half options. So again, I realize that's a big commitment. It's in Greeley. But we would just, I'm trying to get a general idea. Definitely don't think everybody needs to go, but again, I think having a couple people go could be helpful. Questions about that before we jump into the challenge program, and then we can circle back to this. And after we talk about the challenge program too, Troy's been involved in all of these events because he's on the board for DCI. So I'm sure he can add more info. But I went to the In the Game conference in Durango last year and thought it was super helpful. You have sessions kind of at all different levels, but I felt like most of them were very much in layman's terms and just kind of helpful again to get a sense of what different people are doing in terms of economic development and downtown development. So the challenge program, we talked a little bit about this last meeting. I am not pushing that we do this. Again, this is one that personally I've gone back and forth on. I think it would be very educational, but I think it is a significant time commitment. They have you focus on an area that you're looking to develop as a community. And as I understand it, try to kind of walk you through the process of what could be done with this piece of property. How might you court a potential developer? What might that look like? And just kind of that development process. It's webinars pretty much every other 2 a month. So it's 8 webinars, one-on-one meetings with the DCI team, a community capacity assessment, team building and stakeholder engagement, communication toolkit. You create a community profile, a property pitch sheet, feasibility review, create kind of an example pro forma, network with other communities. And then the webinars, they're Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. The first one's November 20th. There's one December 4th. And then starting in January, they'd be every other week, January 8th, January 22nd, February 5th, February 19th, March 5th, and March 19th. And then you attend that challenge, not the challenge, the In the Game conference. So we would need at least 2 board members that, were really gung ho and could commit to that time commitment. Anybody can attend the webinars and, can be involved in the process, but would want 2 or 3 people that really were committed to do it.
I think we
Troy
can
again could
scratch
share
that
some
one
insights.
off. You guys, what
Yeah.
do you guys think? Should we just let that one go?
Was that the one we were talking about that
Yeah,
like
it's like-
people said like, hey, if you put a lot of time and energy into it, you get something out of it?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
right. And we already know what area we're focused on.
And have a fantastic.
And we've got the plan coming in place. So I think that at this stage, it isn't something that would, for the time, be of huge benefit for us. That's my opinion.
If I wasn't pregnant, I'd be all over it.
Yeah.
If it wasn't Wednesday mornings, I'd also be all over it.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I have to work.
Okay.
So,
That takes
All
the
right.
edge.
but maybe next
Okay,
year.
cross
we
that
could
one
re-
off.
we
Yep,
could
they do it
readdress
every year.
Yeah.
They have 2
Cool.
sessions. So they also did for the first time this past year, they launched a summer session. Which I see as more difficult than winter, but depends on individual schedules. So, but they do keep doing it, so we can look at it in a future year.
I think
Yeah,
having
so-
our founding documents
Yeah.
and more like understanding would make the absorption level of that also
I agree.
better, although it sounds like you could learn a lot.
Yeah, and like I
Regardless.
said, anybody, you can still register and attend the webinars, and so you can pick and choose
That's
ones
cool.
that seem interesting. They're all posted on their website. They do ask that you register for them, just so they know who's attending, but there's that option as well. And then if people are at the In the Game, you can kind of get a sense. You can see some of the communities do their little pitches and get a better sense of whether it feels like it might be a good fit for Fraser.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested in just attending a non-committal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I'll make sure everybody has that schedule then. So going back to In the Game, again, I realize this is far out, but did just want to gauge if we should plan to budget for a couple of people attending.
I think I definitely want to attend.
Okay.
Good for you.
Before we were talking about how Eaton, was it Eaton was similar to us? That's just north of Greeley, so I think it would be
Yeah,
a great
so-
idea for us to join and then
Oh,
see what Greeley's doing and then just travel to Eaton and kind of see what they're doing too.
Yeah, and Troy, I don't know if you know, I'm guessing you're not involved in these levels of details, sure they don't have that schedule yet, but I know with the Durango one, they also offered through the conference, the opportunity to like, they had like a bus trip to Mancos and to some of the surrounding
Yeah.
states to see what they were.
Yeah. I don't know the exact agenda right now. I know that we like to keep the program really kind of variable, right? So you're not sitting in a room all day long. You are going to be getting up, walking around. We do dine arounds with very specific project experts on a variety of topics. We do tours, so I imagine one would be involved. It is in Greeley. They're a very active DDA and URA community. So for me, I certainly understand. I don't think you guys are quite in a position for the challenge program. I think exposing yourself to the conference and learning about other program participants and what they got out of it, it would be immensely valuable. And it's a really, it is a community, you know, we're not overly large. We're not cities or counties. So there's about 65 URAs and 23 DDAs. And so it's a really close-knit community that I think the networking and really learning, hey, what worked in the community and what didn't work is valuable beyond just words. So yeah, I would encourage folks to go to the conference and really get a sense and scope of what DCI could do for the DDA in the future.
So what are the dates on that again? April?
April.
It's the first week, I think.
It is
Yeah.
the first week. I just.
I should know that.
I think it says the
April
first through the
April
fourth.
4th.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4.
I block my schedule, but
Yes,
yeah, we'll
first
see.
through the fourth.
But I did put it in there. I would love to go as well.
Yeah, you guys would learn a lot. Great.
Okay. And if we register before December 31st, it is a little cheaper. We get $100 off. I think I registered 2 weeks before the conference last year, but we actually had a free spot last year. So we can check back in later in December if,
Yeah.
you know, people are ready to commit at that point or not. If we need more time, then we can always do the later registration too, but.
Great.
We will plan on, and if I can work out childcare, we'll look to attend, but 2 to 3 people. Okay. Great. Well, then we can go ahead and move into the budget. Did anybody want to go to Pueblo on the 13th? I realize I kind of brushed over that one. Greg looks like he's giving a solid no over there.
Sure, I have something on.
Okay, cool. All right.
Stand up, baby.
Budget time. All right, so this is, and we do have Lori Waters joining us. Have you guys all met Lori officially yet? She is our finance director for the town. If you'd like to introduce yourself, Lori. Give us your resume. How did you feel?
Okay, you got to turn your mic on.
Oh, good. Wait, I thought it was one.
Maybe it is. It's just my hearing.
Oh, now it's on. Yeah, I've been the finance director for the town for over a year, but I've lived here almost as long as Katie. So we've been around for a long time. I've really enjoyed the challenge of the job. And yeah, we'll be working with you guys to get you set up and get you on your way.
One question you might know, for this first year of increment, we're not gonna really have any money in the door until people pay their taxes, correct?
Mhm.
So we're not gonna have anything till May, June at the earliest, probably?
Yeah.
Okay, just something to keep in mind as we
Yeah,
plan
'cause
for
Really good
next
point,
year's
yeah.
dollars spent, cause like the business enhancement grants, I don't think we can contribute to the March deadline. if don't
we
do it.
see the first increments of, remember they do it quarterly. So January, February, March, first quarter, you won't see those funds until, and mid-April.
Okay,
Yeah,
So
so
then if-
it's a while because they collect them, compile them, and it might be mid-April, actually April 30th.
So we might not see, if people aren't paying their property tax till the May deadline, we wouldn't see those till July.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I hesitate to promise something I can't deliver on. If there were expenses that we wanted to incur earlier in the year and we know pretty solidly that money is coming in, it might be possible to make an arrangement with the town to move some money around, to have some
Yes.
money to play with earlier. So,
Yes, it's called a due to, due from, you know, if the town picks up expenses from the DDA, then the DDA will have a due to the town of Fraser General Fund later. So it just depends on what comes up and what you're addressing.
because you're right. Otherwise, we're kind of got 6 months before we have anything to really play with.
And what was the grant? What's the offer to the businesses? What's
It's a maximum of a $25,000 grant with a 50% match, but there's wording in there that a lesser match could be considered, particularly if there's a significant public benefit, if I'm remembering all that correctly.
What defines public benefit?
So we had wording in there, but that is a piece that we, in terms of making a recommendation, well, one, in terms of defining it on the webpage, there's a draft there. But in terms of criteria for evaluating, we can get down into that. When it was presented to the board, public benefit is anything that helps meet our economic development goals. So
So it's
it,
loose. So it could be education, beautification, whatever.
yes, it's broad.
Nice.
And it's intentionally broad, because I think a lot of things can provide public benefits, and particularly thinking about downtown development, the idea that a vibrant downtown is a public benefit. But that does mean that we need to prioritize in terms of criteria for what aspects of public benefit do we really want to kind of lean into.
Right.
Yeah.
I think especially as a DDA, right?
Right.
Because we have our own little walkability, transportation, we have
Yeah.
parking, beautification. So, I mean, I think it falls in those lines, but then we also have events under us as well in some way, shape, or form too. So we should probably try to narrow it down a little bit.
Well, and the business enhancement grant, like the criteria for eligibility will be defined by the town. So we'll be working off of those to some extent. So those events wouldn't fall under that, but we'll talk about events here in terms of where they would fall in the DDA budget.
Are we in control of that? Or is that gonna be under something like a grand foundation?
You say
No,
that.
the DDA is in control of this, but our budget has to be approved by the Board of Trustees of the town. So unless we want to set up a program through the Grand Foundation, this would rest but if we wanted to set up a program through the Grand Foundation, we could look at doing that, but currently
No.
it would be with the DDA.
Yeah, I think we have enough people here to figure
Yeah.
it out.
So in all transparency with the budget this year, I have somewhat struggled in terms of what makes sense. I feel like we just adopted a plan of development. We're just figuring out a work plan. Do we try to figure out exactly what we're spending all of our money on for next year right now? I think would be short-sighted, and just on an overly crunched timeline. That said, we do have to give the Board of Trustees something to work with to approve. And I was really looking for this to be more of a workshop, but if we want to adopt the budget in the same meeting that it's introduced, we have to have a published proposed budget that the public could see and choose to show up and weigh in on. So we have a starting point. I don't think it's a bad starting point, but we can modify this today as people see fit. But I'll go ahead and just explain kind of the rationale and the reasoning behind what's here. Lori, jump in at any time. The bars on my screen from the Zoom are never where I want them to be. So I've used the budget format that Lori uses for the town budget. In terms of tax revenues, the $64,310 that we are expecting to receive, I did go ahead and subtract the 1.5% that the county assessor can keep for their own expenses based on statute. The statute says it's up to 1.5%, so that could be less. This is still not an exact number. The assessor expected that this would change some between when they were doing their initial assessments in December based on various factors, but that's what we have to work off of right now. We do have, it looks like maybe about 2,000 or so that will roll over from that initial seed money. That is still dependent on kind of the final invoices that we get from Butler, Snow, and from Troy between now and the end of the year. So again, not an exact number, but based on where we're kind of expecting to land. So we're expecting to have a little over 66,000 to work with for next year. So I've, as a starting point, put in here 1,200 for training programs. So that would include things like the DCI conference. The more expensive piece of that tends to actually be the travels, meals, lodgings, things like that versus the actual conference fee, especially if we're getting a 2-for-1 rate on the conference fee. Professional services, this may be larger than we need, but again, not quite knowing what opportunities are going to present themselves. So this would be for things like financial consulting, legal consulting, anything like that. Additionally, we talked previously, DCI had kind of given us a menu of options that they could provide. We have not yet used those services because we were working with AIRS and Troy for most of that in terms of what we initially needed. But if we wanted to bring them in to do some different facilitated conversations or workshops, anything facilitated with, like stakeholders, those items could all kind of fall under this professional services category. I don't know that we will be striking development agreements with partners next year, but if we did, we would need professional services around that. So it's left a little large to kind of provide that possibility for different opportunities that could present itself. If we don't need all of that, then that is money that would roll over or we could potentially shift. District enhancements is what we have come up with for a broad category. I believe I described it in the budget message as any sort of enhancement to the district. So really it could be matches for the business enhancement grant. It could be our own kind of programming around that. It could be if we wanted to apply for a CDOT revitalizing Main Street grant, the match amount that's required for that. But it's pretty broad, right? Beautification, anything that can kind of be considered an enhancement. If we wanted to purchase a piece of public art, a bench, something like that.
I keep going back to the matching of the enhancement grant, and that just seems unattainable. What would that, like, what match are you like thinking of when you think that? Because like it sounds good, but then I'm like, is that attainable with this budget?
Yeah, I mean, and again, we have to further kind of prioritize since there
Yeah.
is a limited budget, but if something, a facade improvement, a public patio was presented that the board was really excited about and the business was like, and honestly, Abby, this idea came
Yeah.
from your feedback
Yeah.
that you had applied for a grant, but
And then I can afford,
you couldn't afford the match.
yeah.
So I think it's still important that we encourage businesses to provide the match. I want that to be the expectation, but if there's cases where again, there's a nice really strong public benefit and it doesn't seem attainable, or there's enough public benefit that we feel like we're okay with the business not providing that match or a more minimal match.
So we don't have to provide a match to every applicant.
No.
That's where my concern was, if there needed to be like an equality to,
And
like
we would,
that money will
yeah.
be gone.
If this was
Well-
something we were gonna do, we would talk through this and flesh it out and develop criteria.
Similar to what Troy's working on in a sense, but like the more specific to the businesses,
Yes.
like a plan that we wouldn't be chastised for picking one versus the other.
I mean,
Exactly.
So,
we're only,
Yeah.
this is up to 25K, right? And here's the deal is that we're probably never gonna hand 25K out in the next year, correct? Like,
But
because
hitting
if I apply for
3,000
a
out.
grant, usually I'll apply for like 15, 20K, 10K. And a lot of times you get back 2,500, 5,000. So you do not have to approve anywhere close to the amount that they're talking about either.
But
And
2,500 to a small business is like so
That's-
much.
Well,
think.
it is and it's not. It depends on the small business. It depends on it. If it's on Main Street over here, Simple Coffee, I'll have no problem pulling that out, or Birdie Lounge, real
Yeah.
quick. Now, a small business off of Main Street, a bit could be harder. You know, like in Granby, there's this little antique shop that nobody even knows about probably. It's a little old lady, and she opens it up when she feels like it. If she applied, yeah, she would probably
Right.
never be able to come up with that money. Probably right.
So that's where the what is the plan that Troy's working on for developers or
Oh, there's no.
financial
Financial and
No,
and
not on
investment
60,000.
policy.
financial investment policy? So we would have like
Guidelines.
guidelines for this. that would
Exactly, yeah.
Help us
Once we get
make
there.
those decisions.
And I will say, I meant to have these numbers, looking at signage, because that seemed to be something of interest, either something over the highway or like an electronic marquee.
Sure.
Based on the initial numbers I've seen, I don't think we have enough money. Grand Lake, is doing this really cool, I could pull it up if we have time later, like iron work.
Wait a minute, why would the DDA have to do the entry sign for the town? The town should do the entry sign for the town.
Well, that's
Well,
not-
Report it as
we
a
can provide an
priority.
update on signage that the town is doing.
we could work. with
TDA doesn't
that.
have to do anything, but again, these are examples of
Yeah.
enhancements to the
I
downtown.
mean, that seems like clearly not in the DDA's ballpark.
Well, if it's outside of the GDA boundary, right? But if we wanted something, some people seem to express interest in like something over the highway here in downtown Fraser or that electronic marquee.
Yeah.
I was trying to get a number for the one at the Rendezvous Event Center. And I'll ask Sarah if she heard back from the sign company.
Because I mean, you heard the price
I
of the
think we should
Colfax
wait until
sign
those yellow
was
buildings are
20,000.
finished before we put our sign down.
20,000?
The Colfax, the pink Colfax sign
Mhm.
was 20,000.
Okay,
But-
that's actually cheaper than.
It's movable, and the hardest part was getting Forest Service permission.
Yeah.
To put it where they put it, but
It
it's
needed
movable
Forest Service permission over Colfax?
for disrupting the tree on the land
Oh.
it was located. So they had to get permission from, what's the concert hall? The Fillmore, I think is where it's
Okay.
located, but they say it's a huge attraction point. And so I think before the marquee, like, but I don't know, there is cross committee interest there.
Right, where we-
But like you're saying, we would support that vibrancy
Right.
of downtown, whether it's the sign or if it's an art.
And so that would be another project that could fit with the district enhancements.
Right, but 20,000 is a lot for like, something that says Fraser.
No
Well,
details.
Grand Lakes is spending 180,000 on their
So then that-
iron.
That's all the
work.
welding.
It's, yeah, again,
It's
it's
all
all
welding, yeah.
And that doesn't include an electronic marquee. That would be more, if there's an electronic component to there, so.
Right.
So that's that kind of district enhancement category. Community outreach would be things, it could be marketing, promotions. I'm gonna have Sarah come in a little bit and give us a little update on some things that the town is doing in terms of signage and marketing. Meet and greets with different businesses or networking events, stakeholder events, things like that. Those are all meant to kind of fall under this community outreach category. And then miscellaneous expense, 1,500. Eventually we'll probably want to be putting more money towards reserves, but since we're starting with a small amount of funding, when Troy and I talked, he thought it was reasonable to do a smaller amount than what he would typically recommend, as a percentage.
I like it. I think it's broad enough where we can work with it and it's realistic for what we're looking at.
Thanks for the explanation there.
One question just on the dollars spent on professional services to date. That's to get us our development plan, our work plan. And
Yep.
like what
possibly.
deliverables does that include? And then what do we need to be a fully fledged DDA
Yeah.
outside of that?
So 15,000 went to errors, and that was for the
Yeah.
plan of development and the work plan. Butler Snow has been providing the legal review of everything.
Mhm.
And then Troy Bernberg's worked with the assessor to make sure we're getting an appropriate assessment. And then the financial document policies and just kind of reviewing and oversight of that stuff.
So the 28 grand got us to legally be a DDA with all those required kind of
Yep.
deliverables. And then Troy, is there anything kind of upcoming that you think, say, consultant deliverable in that professional services bucket that would be smart to have? Kind of, I guess, what do we?
Yeah, so I can certainly speak to the role I have filled. I am primarily providing for some DDAs. I help with the budgeting. With some DDAs, I consult on development activity. So I'll do a pro forma tax increment projection for a project so that you all can figure out how much money you might have to invest from that project or reimburse in that project. So for me, I have some clients have me attend every single meeting, provide counsel throughout the meeting, or sometimes I can be just called upon as needed if there's a question that arises in a board meeting. Certainly, there are going to be legal questions that you guys will end up having that you'll need to consult for. So for me, I think the budget where it is right now is appropriate. I don't know if you would reach 20,000 for professional services. You might, depending if there's, accelerated development activity and you need someone like me to help you understand what the return is to the DDA in terms of incremental revenue. It could maybe push a little closer to that 20, but I think, that's it. You guys are in a really good spot with your budget. I remarked as such to Sarah, you have to keep it flexible when you're early and you're still kind of learning to crawl and walk as an organization. I think flexibility is paramount.
And so whatever we don't spend out of a certain bucket just goes to reserves for next year, but can't be switched between buckets.
We could probably switch some money. We've kind of been discussing it, like what's the threshold where it's considered
Right.
a budget amendment and we need to go back to the Board of Trustees to get approval. I meant to look at this number beforehand. I think you guys signed off on we can have expenditures up to, do you remember that amount before we have to have
Is it 1,500?
1,500?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think smaller amounts. Troy, you were telling me, I could pull up your email. What did you say? 30 to 40%?
Yeah, I mean,
Usually more
again, though, I
expensive.
see this range change between communities, municipalities, and DDAs. So, if it's not an issue to get the budget amendment, it's an administrative step. Certainly, I wouldn't want to propose anything that the town isn't on or is not comfortable with. But for me, there should be some flexibility from a practical standpoint, because yeah, maybe you don't spend all of your professional services budget. Maybe you don't spend all of your district enhancement budget. So, for me, it's important that you guys have that budget flexibility to spend that money elsewhere if the occasion arises.
That was just my thought is like, the first year, we're not going to be doing a ton of highly impactful things, but, if there was signage or flowers or whatever that, we wanted to spend on, or even, I think trainings too might be a little underfunded just because we're all kind of learning as we go. And I think there's a lot to be learned amongst, 12 people, which
Yeah.
$100 a person is not going to go that far.
Can we get signage and stuff donated by
so-
chance? Is that like a possibility? Is that something?
I think-
Is that allowed?
I don't know. I think as long as we just have some flexibility and there is a process to be like, all right,
Yeah.
we didn't use Troy as much, or we didn't,
Yeah.
do as much, but we want to do a lot more community outreach, as long as we have a process to move money around.
Yeah, and I was pulling up the budget message. I'm trying to remember my wording. I left it somewhat broad, though the Board of Trustees may ask for a specific dollar amount. Moving forward, the DDA will provide regular budget updates to the Board of Trustees as part of quarterly reports. Troy did indicate to me that this is more reporting to the board than his other DDAs do. If a significant budget amendment were to become necessary, the DDA would work with the Board of Trustees to ensure a transparent and effective adjustment process. Again, they might ask for a specific dollar amount. We could suggest a specific dollar amount. That over that dollar amount, we would come back to the Board of Trustees for approval. I don't know what the best strategy there is, if we should suggest a certain amount or just leave it open until they say otherwise.
Or if you want some flexibility in the budget, sometimes what some of my clients have done in their early years is they'll set aside a contingency as a budgeted line item. So that gives them kind of the flexibility to say, all right, something came up that we weren't anticipating. Do we budget line item for a contingency? And so maybe what you do is you lower the dollar amounts in some of those other categories and you put it in contingency. Now, that's how my clients have done it in the past. So
I like that
Me too.
approach.
Yeah.
It gets
That's a good
people to
idea.
be more lean and justify every dollar spent. I would put like half or more in contingency, because I can't come up with what we're gonna spend $30,000 on right now next year.
Yeah.
So I think as we learn what's a worthwhile expenditure, we kind of present it,
Yep.
and pitch it, and then
Yep.
that goes to the contingency
And it-
budget. I like that a lot.
And then in future years, as we're more informed.
Exactly.
More specific.
Yeah.
Flesh it
That's
out
it.
a little bit.
That gives a sample of, we're prioritizing district enhancements over
Yeah.
like, the numbers you presented in a sense, which is good. Like we want to focus on enhancements if they come about.
Yeah, I think the ratios are good and,
Yep.
generally,
Mhm.
but maybe we say out of that 65,000, we're only at those percentages allocating 25,000, and there's 40 in contingency.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
numbers,
yeah.
But I think keep it super lean, and then, obviously we're gonna have scenarios where we're like, oh, we need Troy for whatever, or we
Right.
need
right.
to do this training or whatever, and we can justify it and keep that internal to us where we don't
Yeah.
need to go to the board, I think is important.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts and just clarifications to what you said. The training programs, we could up that. Again, I guess I'm looking at DCI as like our primary source at this initial point. There are definitely other organizations and conferences and things that we could look at. But a lot of their services to us with our membership is free. I did mean to ask Michael his thoughts on our like DCI membership fee, if that moving forward is paid for by the town or the DDA. I was going to propose that it be split, and if we continued with the VIP membership, that would be $500 each. And so that in the game conference would be the big one, and that's 2 for 1. So that's where that 1,200 came from, but we could up it. Some of that community outreach money, again, if we had like a facilitated work with DCI, and I can pull up what they had previously proposed as well to look at. But I guess I saw some of that is potentially coming out of either professional services, or there could be some room with community outreach. But so some of that training stuff might fall with facilitated work that we did under professional services.
Mhm.
I've got an idea. How about if we just plug in, so if we change the professional services to 15,000 and district enhancements to 30, that leaves us 9,000 to put in a contingency and just label it as contingency.
Lori, can miscellaneous serve as contingency, or do you really want to keep that more?
Or should we just call it that?
Oh, I see.
Miscellaneous expenses is what I call the black hole, and you try to keep that at a lower, steady level, because I don't want too much stuff going into miscellaneous expense that should be categorized. So just, it's a good look when you don't have a lot of miscellaneous expense. That means everything's being allocated properly to the correct funds. My thinking on this budget was to keep it kind of light and open. This is a work in progress. This is your first year. The way I approach it, as long as we're not getting too crazy, if you don't spend $20,000 in professional services, I'll let you spend it someplace else. Without, full disclosure to the board, I can always come forward to the board and say, oh, by the way, we transferred 5,000 to district enhancements because they do not see the expenditure coming. Because I do this with the town budget all the time. And if it's a big enough amount, I get nervous and I will go and talk to Michael and say, what do you think I should do? And he says, let's tell the board, and we do tell the board. Because I do the financial update for them, and if there's something really crazy going on, for example, you know, the financial update about, yes, $30,000 is now to the DDA, because I like to keep it clean. But this can grow. We can add, we can change. You know, if you want to add it now, we can add it now, and I could put in an actual contingency, or we can let it ride, and then we'll know more next year to be able to better create the new general ledger accounts. The thing am trying to avoid is I don't want your general ledger accounts to look like the towns. There's 9 gazillion. It's 20 pages, okay? So we're trying to start out real simple and nice and clean. And then as we move forward, sorry, it's dusty back here. As we move forward, it will grow organically and not be too intensely in depth. So
Okay.
yes, if you would like a
I withdraw my
contingency-
suggestion. Let's just stick with what
Let
we've
it
got.
ride, yeah.
Yeah,
just let it ride.
Let's just
if
stick
if
with
you
what
want,
we've
I
got.
could throw.
That, over the last 5 years of the art and public places budget, which is slightly more than this, we've had no trouble doing what she's describing, moving somebody here, somebody there. We're not held to the same level of rigor that public corporations are with regard to quarterly reporting and that sort of thing, so it's quite flexible.
Okay, good.
Are we held to the quarterly reports too?
It's something that one of the board members in particular asked for, and the board seemed to
see.
generally. So I don't know long-term that we are, but I don't know that it hurts in terms of transparency and
Right.
building buy-in and confidence to start off with
Yeah.
quarterly, and then maybe they become biannual.
Yeah, confidence.
And I don't think a contingency is a bad idea. The thought was, when I was initially talking to Michael Brack about this, I would have had it all in contingency. I wasn't calling it that. But I mean, his thought was that the Board of Trustees was not going to want to go for that they want to be able to approve a budget and know where money is going. So I think we could put a little bit more in miscellaneous, or if it's
Yeah.
preferred that it be called contingency versus miscellaneous, we could go with your suggestion,
No,
Katie.
thank you. I withdraw my suggestion.
Okay.
It is
from your
worth
mind.
pointing out real quick, sorry, Sarah, that some of my early DDAs, as they matured, they actually got rid of their contingency. So just as the town finance director is saying, like, it all ended up in a GL account. So I just mentioned that because usually in years 1 through 3, it kind of makes sense when you're still kind of learning and maturing revenue wise, et cetera. Sorry to cut you off, Sarah.
No.
And what's the total town expense in a given year? 9 million bucks?
Something like that.
Yeah, so we're talking about less than 1%.
Pocket change.
Right. That's my point is, let's not overanalyze this.
Okay.
Don't overthink it right now.
All right.
guys
So are
got-
we?
If you guys get up in the $2 to $3 million range, you're gonna get a lot more attention, okay?
And by then, we'll be
Trust
much
me.
more. mature.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone just.
Then we'll all know what we're doing.
Well, and I think it would be easy enough if we wanted to move a little bit out of professional services into miscellaneous. We
I was
could do
thinking
that.
too.
It's,
I'd move as much as possible
Yeah.
to miscellaneous and call it done.
Yeah.
okay,
So whatever you're comfortable with being a miscellaneous. put
throw
it
a
in
number
there.
out.
And then like mid-year, we'll revisit it.
Yeah, I'll give you
I was
5.
thinking it's 10,000, 10%, 5,000, perfect. I was thinking 6,000, so close enough.
Yeah, do I hear 7? Do I hear 8?
All right, 5.
We make a motion to approve the 2025 annual budget.
No, hold on, there's a typo in the budget,
There's a typo.
so I wanted to bring that
Okay.
first.
No motion.
Got a typo?
Go ahead.
And now I need to do my
Take-
math here. So we
Do
just
that, take
added,
5 out of there.
right, I made this 5,
No.
we added 3,500 there, so we need to take 35 off of here.
That little red better go away.
16,500.
I didn't do that right.
3,500 would
16,
be
16,
16,500.
Yeah,
There you go.
does that look great? What was the typo?
Look
Laura?
at the 1210,
page
1210 at the bottom. You
Page
got
2
it.
of the actual budget message.
Yes.
Second paragraph, it states, the county assessor has provided an estimate increment amount of $65 instead of 60.
Yeah, let me pull that back up. Troy kindly found that for me as well.
Okay, good, okay, that's just,
65K.
that's just the K, there's not a K, there's no K right there. I just want to make sure that that was
Yeah.
a fix before we approve it. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds about right.
This is
Yeah,
the one that I
so,
have.
estimated increment amount of $64,310. Additionally, a small amount of seed money is
Yeah,
how that should read.
That's not how mine reads it, that's why I make sure it was corrected. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, good job.
Are we good? All right, so does everybody feel okay with this then?
Yep.
Yes.
Glad we dissected it.
Can I make a motion
Hold on,
to
it's
approve?
gonna be a.
Hold on, you have a
resolution.
resolution.
Is it a resolution?
Here. Do- here. This is good.
Here it is.
But I have it. If you wanna like. read the resolution.
I don't want to read the full resolution now.
2410.
Not from that angle.
You could, yeah, you just. stay there.
Okay, can we make a motion for to approve the resolution 2024-10-03 approval of
Oh,
town 02?
Yeah, it's in the blue writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next one.
Yep, that's the document.
No, it's
this is different.
I mean, that's what it says on mine. I don't know what it says on yours.
We're on C.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, the resolution, can we make a motion for the proposed budget work plan 2024-10-02 adoption of DDA 2025 annual budget?
Okay.
Is this a roll call for a resolution?
You
After the-
vote.
You vote, we
You don't have to do roll call, but you have to
Okay,
take the numbers.
anyone want to second that?
Second.
Yeah, we got
a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Any opposed?
Sounds like
We
time.
got a strong one up there.
Did Nick
Nick,
vote?
I didn't hear Nick.
Okay, so this is.
I think that was Barry.
That was.
That was
Barry.
Barry.
Mhm.
that was me.
Are you there,
there.
Nick? So
I know
you're
Nick was-
muted.
Nick was gonna be in and out today.
Oh,
He
Nick
might
is-
have stepped away.
Okay.
Helen was a yes.
So we just, we won't count it. For the official record.
Right.
Thank God.
So
Fine.
Okay,
I had 10 yeses and 1 abstain.
okay,
Do you agree? Okay.
perfect. All right.
You just went on the budget without trying to like it.
I mean, he's in charge of 65.
All right. Thank you, Troy. You're obviously welcome to hang out if you like, but I think that's the last of our financial stuff for today.
Everyone have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank
You
you.
also.
Nice haircut.
We'll see you at our next meeting. All right. So our next one should be quick. So it's the IGA between the town of Fraser and the DDA. It is set to expire the end of this year with the possibility of extending, modifying, or renewing it. I took out the information on the seed money that was received because that was included in the first year's IGA. Otherwise, it is the exact same IGA. I did add executive here at the end of section 2. Otherwise, just from the copy that was put in the packet, otherwise this is the same as what's in the packet. So if we're good with continuing with this, it still is just the town is providing town staff services, then this would be approved pending board approval, and it will go in front of the board, I believe, at the December 6th meeting when they approve all the other IGAs for next year. Yep. So if everyone's good with that, there's a resolution for this one too.
Yep. All right, does anyone make a motion for the resolution approving the extension of the intergovernmental agreement with the town of Fraser for 2025, resolution number 2024-10-3?
Go move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
I,
That's 10 yeses and 1 abstain.
Okay, great. All right, and then I asked Sarah
Thanks,
Wick
Lorraine.
to join us.
Thank you.
She does all of our marketing and communications and events for the town. And I just want to make sure that the DDA, that we are integrated with the town's efforts and complementing what the town is already doing and not operating in a silo. So wanted her to provide some updates on things that are in the works in regards to signage and just kind of sharing generally what the town is doing in terms of promoting downtown Fraser.
All right.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm sure a lot of you know me already. So first, I'm going to talk about explorefrasercolorado.com. That's the new tourism website that launched a few months ago. So right now, I just have some quick analytics for you. I just looked at them before I popped in. We're getting about 3,000 visitors per month. I do have an ad running for that website that directs people towards that website. So a lot of traffic, about 75%, is coming from that ad. It's just the overall come visit Fraser, Colorado. Maybe you guys have seen it. I've been throwing quite a bit of money at it. So about 72% is coming from social media. 13 is direct. That means people are searching for Explore Fraser, and then 10% is referral, which means it's coming from a different website. So that looked like it was from Play Winter Park, and then also our town website as well.
What was that social media amount?
72%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Facebook and Instagram?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. But like I said, I have that ad running.
Yeah.
So that's where a lot of it's coming from. So the top words that were searched for, those would be from the direct ones, were Fraser, Colorado events, Fraser, Colorado, and then Fraser Mountain Mural Festival. 97% of the traffic is from the US, and those top states are Colorado, Texas, Missouri, California, Florida, Oklahoma, and Kansas. Some of the top pages on that website are the homepage, mainly because of that ad. I also did another ad in the fall for visiting the mountains in autumn for the leaves and stuff like that. So the second page was a blog page about different locations to see the fall foliage. The next one is the photo contest that was actually just launched. And then the other one is a page called It's Perfect Weather Too, and that's where our webcams live. So a lot of people actually view that too, which I have this guy that emails me on a regular basis and asks me about the weather there because he's watching the webcam, which I think is funny. So that might be another thing that I'm thinking about, is installing another one, maybe downtown somewhere. I think that might be a good place. Maybe, when the Riverwalk district gets developed, we could put one down on Main Street because people do watch them.
I still think like a billboard in Denver in
Yeah.
the summer with the Fraser weather
Would kill it.
would
Oh, yeah.
drive tourism
Yep.
when it's
Yeah.
102 down there and
Oh.
76 up here.
Yeah, come get away from the heat,
Yes.
scorching.
we don't want to drive it that much.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want them all
Do it
coming
for
up.
4 months.
Right.
I'm familiar with that.
Cool off in Fraser.
Busy in July.
Golf courses are gonna explode.
You say bring them up.
And then we also have a couple pages that I wanted to pull your attention to, especially if you have a business in Fraser, is the events page. That one. Are you on the, Caitlin?
I'm
Okay,
doing it.
are you on the events page?
Where,
It is such a beautiful website, Sarah.
Events- if you
Yeah.
I'm
scroll
gonna-
down
Those
the
are great.
calendar,
I'm gonna, yeah,
this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna change out those images pretty soon to make them more
Beautiful.
wintry. So scroll down to the bottom. And if you do have an event or a business that has events, like weekly events, like bingo and stuff like that, sometimes I'll catch them and put them on there for you, but it's like a lot easier if you just submit it to us. It comes directly to me. So, and then I populate the calendar. And then there's also the business page called Find It in Fraser. If you go, Sarah, if you scroll all the way up to the top and then go to that main menu in the upper right-hand corner where those little lines are.
Sorry, I had my Zoom stuff was covering it.
There you go. So Find It in Fraser.
Get bonked.
Find your base camp.
And then scroll down. So this is where all our businesses are listed. And obviously you can see where to drink. You can click on those and filter them. I also, there are some that are like the Troublesome Tomahawks. That's actually in Granby, but I think it's just good to have, in my opinion, all boats rise with the tide. So I think it's good information for people to have. Not into, I don't know. Granby's part of us too. But
Doing the same?
Hmm?
Is Granby doing the same? Are they adding some of our businesses over here?
I don't know what they're doing over there. I can double check on their tourism website. Like,
It's hard to find out over
yeah. Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. But if you
Yeah.
if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, this is where businesses can submit all their information. And again, that comes directly to me and then I just add it to the website. So that's a good resource for people that come to visit. And so if you know any businesses that you don't see listed on there, just encourage them to sign up. Does anybody have any questions about Explore Fraser? There's another section that I'm working on. It's basically if you're trying to start a new business or relocating to Fraser. So that will be launching sometime in the next couple months. I'm just working on adding some information to it.
Is it a large lift for like the Find It in Fraser if those were all just geolocations on a map?
What if no, not really. I mean, we could would adding a map, I'm just thinking out
Oh,
loud.
you
Would
can click where to drink. No, okay. I think with the filters of clicking where to eat, where to drink, that makes sense.
Oh, that's better.
Yeah, because I like when you pull up to it, it's like the roofing company.
Yeah, you're like, I don't care about roofing. I just want to
I'm
find a
out of here.
cocktail.
Okay.
So we could put a map on there. I don't dislike that idea.
I think it's nice just because like
You can see
well,
where they all are.
every person I bring to Fraser for the first time, like no one knows like that the Fraser River Beer Company's right there. Like, and everyone's like, oh, this is sweet. And then, you go back into Fisher's or in the back, like there's so many things that like you kind of have to know about to find.
Right.
That for a visitor, like unless they stumble across it or their hands being held by someone who's here, like they're not gonna find it and know about it. So I like this is nice, but I think really like
Interactive.
yeah, interactive almost like a geo map would be cool for a visitor to really feel like, okay, like let's hit these 5, make your own bar crawl or something, like I don't know.
Yeah, I like that because then you could pull up your location and then see what's
Yes.
around you. That's what
Within
people do.
walking
Yeah, that's
distance,
what, like,
right?
Yeah.
Like, we
I'll
want
do-
people to walk and move around and
Mhm.
Yeah,
if they know where the businesses are, then
yeah.
Yeah, that's
you
a
might
good idea.
stay at the Holiday Inn Express because you're within walking distance of all these different places, right?
Yeah, and then like I forget, it was a year or two ago, it came up about doing that QR code on a billboard or something.
Mhm.
Link to that, I think would be a really cool way to get people, past safely, like, all right, here's where everything is, and then that just pulls you to that website.
Right.
Where I am, within all this cool stuff?
There is, I don't know if they've updated them yet, but like we do advertising on the lift too, and it has the QR code that
Yeah.
goes right to the website. hmm
Even if it linked right to like that
The
geo
map.
would be nice. 'Cause it's
Mhm.
like, all right, here's my options that are walkable.
Even on
Ma-
Safeway, don't they have like little advertisements on the carts?
Mhm.
The shopping
gotta
carts,
pay
they have a
for those.
QR code like for visitors, be like, oh, sweet, there's actually food here. I don't have to go back to Winter Park.
I assume it's Cartvertising that does those placements, and
Like they're not cheap.
given how crowded that Safeway is, I'm sure they're not cheap, because to do,
I'll look at it though. I'm
Yeah.
usually not into print advertising, but I kind of like that just because it's a little bit different and people, it's like right there in front of
I've
your face.
explored it
too.
in the past, I would not recommend it.
Okay.
I think I spent like 17, 18 grand one year.
Oh, God.
The only people sending it to me were my friends telling me how stupid it was.
Okay. I'm crossing that
It's
off
really-
right now. It's like-
I mean, because if you have that thing down, your kid's in it, or you have stuff in front of it, and if you have it up, then you're not looking at it. So it's like, they do a really good job selling you on it because the number of eyeballs and that Safeway is so popular. But in my experience, it was not fruitful.
Yeah, we
Mhm.
took back at the receipts years ago and we didn't really get a return. on it.
Yeah,
It's just weird, like grocery stores, you think, because so many people, everyone goes,
yeah,
but
Maybe they're more focused on
that's why.
getting in and getting out than,
yeah.
Surviving.
yeah.
May I make one suggestion?
Sure.
Is that your calendar, it looks like there's like 2 or 3 businesses that really have taken advantage of this so
Mhm.
far. And it's, if you hadn't have showed me, I probably wouldn't have found the submit your event.
Okay.
So maybe we share that on Town Fraser, Facebook
Yep.
or get it out there. Cause I have a feeling that there's
Okay.
a whole lot of people that would love to add to your calendar
Yeah.
here.
Initially, when I first launched it a couple months ago, like I did, and I think
Mm-hmm.
I posted something on social media about it, but maybe I can just target it a little bit more.
Yeah, or maybe just bring it to the top. I don't know. Or maybe, or feature it on the homepage, just for like a month or something and say it'll be on the homepage.
Is that anything that,
Who?
the chamber keeps saying that they would do stuff?
Yeah.
Is that something that they would do a blast on too?
Oh, like play Winter
Our
Park. Yeah.
link is on their homepage for this website.
But they
Yeah,
could
and
do
it's
like a
beautiful.
business blast.
They do those.
Do all of our
Email that.
businesses pay us some sort of tax?
Because
Yeah.
it's all.
For this? Right, anybody, yes.
Thank you.
Why can't we, if we're billing all of our businesses, why can't we just send something?
Billing them for,
Well, for services, what, sales tax, that side of thing, that,
But
because
we
those.
don't bill them for it. Like it goes to the
No.
state and then we get it. from the
Okay,
state.
so Lori, we don't have anything in-house that we send out, that we could identify
I
our
think-
businesses that
I
we
think
get
if
it
we
with
have-
specifically, okay.
I think if we have this like as one of the quick links to our
Yeah.
social and like just keep pushing it out on
yeah,
social.
I'll just push it more. That's
6 business owners in here now that are all gonna do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know it was there, so I have it written.
I think I put your Oktoberfest on the homepage at one point.
I was gonna ask, like, if it's just a 1-day event, is that something like we're doing a
Yeah.
Halloween party?
Absolutely.
Sisters I know is
Yep.
doing one, like we should.
Oh, yeah.
The link.
Submit it.
Link tree was
I'll
what I
be
was
on
saying
there, yeah.
today, we
Oh,
should put
holiday
on
market
their
thing on
profile.
there.
I mean, that's an expense that needs to be approved,
So many events.
but Linktree has that quick link grab.
Get off the train there and get anywhere,
Okay.
including to the resort.
You
Small
didn't
thing.
go to that
Yeah.
other meeting. Are they looking at keeping the stop in Fraser?
Every time I've gone to one of those meetings, talked with people at the state and so forth, they almost are dismissive, like, of course we would, it's the biggest train station up here.
Perfect.
Now, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll
but
see what
I'm
happens.
going again next week.
Right.
They
It's
need
Fraser,
better, right?
Fraser Elementary next Monday, right? I
Uh,
think it is
Yeah,
from
church. I think it's
5:30 to 7?
I have Tuesday,
But it's Monday, yeah.
Tuesday at 29th at
Tuesday.
5:45 is when it starts.
Yeah.
Okay, I was close. Tuesday. Monday, Tuesday, FBE.
And then, in the past, I've been doing a lot of the events and stuff on our town Instagram page. I would like to get that over to Explore Fraser, but everybody's so used to the Town of Fraser's Insta page. I'm gonna double up and then try and kind of get people to start, towards Explore Fraser, but we'll see what happens. Like
It's only as old
somebody
people
doesn't
who-
see it one time and they're like, I couldn't find it. So like, we'll see. But we do have an Instagram page and that's the only one for Explore Fraser. I didn't do Facebook. I just kind of wanted to keep it simple. So, sometimes I double up, sometimes it's different content than, the town page. Another thing that I'm working on, again, I'm not crazy about printed stuff, but I saw this in Grand Lake. So I'm talking to this guy.
I love those
Mo from
maps.
Mo's Maps. He's gonna stop up.
Oh, I've always
so
wanted
at
to
Grand
see.
Lake,
Yeah.
and he's gonna stop here. I already talked with him. He's gonna look around and we're gonna talk about pricing and stuff like that. And if you look on the back, there's businesses that have advertising too. And he takes care of that as well. The town foots the bill basically. And then you can get your advertising on there. So that's another thing that I've been looking at. I think it's neat. It's almost like a souvenir too, it's not just like a regular map.
It's
Yeah.
true.
So they have these all.
People miss trail
I
maps
take
for
it
that.
from towns all over the.
Yeah.
Where did they put
Oh, yeah.
it? Where would you be able to pick this up?
At all the
Here or
businesses,
all
all the businesses, yeah,
Yeah.
would have them.
When I was in Newport, they had one of these and I kept it. It's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
No, I've been talking about having one of these for a while.
Industry.
Yeah. He says typically you run it for like 2 years and then he'll come back and like update it if it's needed.
You know.
Right. I wonder if you could do half and half. I don't know.
Different.
Yeah.
Considering Icebox.
Thinking of like a hologram where depending on how you look at it, it's like snow or summer.
What is this? Do you mind me asking what something like this costs?
The Grand Lake one costs about 30 grand.
Is it because there were so many businesses on it or just because it's a larger space? Or
Printing all of the hours that go into contacting the businesses, the drawing,
So it'd be about the
illustrations.
same.
That seems pretty reasonable, actually.
Yeah, how much?
Sarah,
Yeah.
did you say the
That
business?
includes
It
printing?
seems really
Hmm?
reasonable.
So I bet the
Includes
printing's at
printing
least.
for like a season?
Yes.
20,000.
So it's not terrible.
Uh-uh.
We could get Saxo.
Did you say the businesses
Oh, I was
don't
gonna
do
say
the advertising? That's
They
included in the
don't.
price.
The business Saxo.
Well, they
That's
could,
weird. Yeah.
but like,
I'd
That'd be cool.
Even
the way they do it in Grand Lake, the town foots the bill for that. Instead of
Amazing.
charging the businesses.
30,000, I bet.
But you could charge the business like,
You could.
I'll be back.
because otherwise everybody's gotta be on there, right?
Guaranteed
Yeah.
printing 75%
Mhm.
of that.
Yeah.
And is that for the 2 years or?
Yes, yeah.
What's your guys' opinion on doing that for just Fraser or Fraser and Winter Park?
I talked to him about that.
So.
He said that would be a lot more money. It would
They
just
have
be.
a-
There is that.
I
So
could
true.
see, I think the DDA, this would be something that the DDA could help invest in. Use some of the grant.
Not
dollars.
money.
But
Well, I mean, I think
It's-
like, when you
but
look
if
at,
it's supporting all of our local businesses and it's right in the heart of Fraser,
Yeah,
pretty much everybody, all of our
If it's
businesses
Fraser
are in
only.
Fraser.
I like having something different. than
Except
what-
for,
and.
Yeah,
I do too.
I think biting off
This
the
is
Winter
all of
Park
Fraser.
That's true.
This is not DDA boundary.
businesses and all that, it would just almost be like.
That's not
Like,
wrong.
You do it to me all the time.
yeah, it's a good point.
But
Yeah, I feel like territorially,
I-
it would be really cool
Stay
journey for
separate.
someone to be like, oh my gosh, I got one from, like, it would be cool for
Yeah.
Winter Park to add on to that.
Yeah.
The,
And then-
the benefit of having
Thanks.
the
Sarah, do you-
collaboration.
Sarah, do you think the town has in the budget 30,000 to do that?
Maybe. I'm pretty good at finding money.
I would think that would be an excellent thing to do.
Yeah.
I think the only benefit to having a joint one would be that people would be in Winter Park and see that we are connected and see that we are a different town. 99% of the time, people drive down and go, I'm still in Winter Park at
Right.
Safeway.
Yeah,
That
I
would
could
be
see
the
that.
benefit.
that was my only thought too, is like,
That'd be
if
the
you
only
like go
benefit.
on like the real estate websites,
And
it's
money.
like Fraser Winter Park area, Grand Lake, Granby, like we are just
Mhm.
geographically associated
Yeah.
with Winter
Oh,
Park.
yeah.
And like, just because someone's gonna go to Dino's, like here for 3 days, like,
Yeah.
I think it's good if we capture them at Dino's to come to the distillery or, you
Yeah.
know,
point.
somewhere else. Like, I think I don't want to be too like stubborn about we're different.
Well, I might offer a different view, and that is
Uh-huh.
the overwhelming majority of tourists are already going to Winter Park. And there's a significant number of people who don't even know to drive past Safeway. And if we can have it at the chamber or wherever,
Right.
they might go, you know what? I should drive past Safeway.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we could have this at the chamber regardless. Like, I think that would be part of the plan, but
Yeah.
Right.
Whether it's both or
Yeah.
Fraser.
Correct.
Right.
I like it just because like this map is super huge. Like it has Grand Lake, it goes all the way to Lake Granby. Like Fraser just isn't Highway 40. Like we have all the biking trails, we have the snowmobile trails, we have the divide on this side. Like the map could be so huge
Or
for
just for
Fraser with just all the
Yeah.
surrounding. Like
But
adding it to Winter Park, I think could be too much.
I think
the
it'd be
guide
too
could
much, and
probably
it's
do that.
honestly, like I said, the only benefit is that it's we're gonna get some recognition that way. But if that's what we want, do we want to be recognized as something that is connected, or do we really want to separate it out? And when we do get our arch, say that we do get an arch and it says welcome to Fraser, at that point I really do think that something like this that is more localized is
Yeah.
important. I don't think it needs to go too far out, because you are trying to funnel people in. Like, they'll find the bike trails, they're explorers,
Well, I
It
right?
could be that you see the Foundry and pieces
Sure.
of that.
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
King's
yeah, you
Crossing.
should include that, yeah,
Yeah,
except the building next to it.
well, Foundry is Fraser, but like, I don't know, there could be a historic pub, like notation in there, but I think if the gentleman was to present two maps together, it would be very apparent that that might be too much, because this is
Yeah.
a lot.
I mean, if they want to pay for the whole
No,
thing, like Winter Park wants to pay for all of it, I say we entertain
would
them.
have to,
Right,
It's
I
a
mean,
Sarah's
like you said,
project,
visually,
so-
there's a lot going on in there, and I like that because you can look
So
at it. But yeah, I
Makes
think,
me
Yeah,
wanna
and
go there.
But yeah,
'cause
the
there's so
Foundry
much.
is Fraser, and everyone thinks that's Winter Park. So if
Yeah.
someone sees the Foundry on the map, then they'll tie the two
Like, what's
together.
Pine Beach? I've never, I'm.
Do you think that he would make it a little more interactive, like add some like check marks in, like people could go check off that they've been somewhere, like a little box, and it says like check where you've been, like see
almost like a,
like a treasure hunt, like
You get a stamp, you get a.
Yeah, I did that one
20%
year.
off.
yeah, you get 10% off, like.
Every single
I,
trail.
well, I was thinking about like those mats we had when we were kids with Matchbox cars.
Yeah.
You like drive around town with them, and it's very interactive for children.
The idea of marking off like.
But I still have that like want
Hey,
to do
folks,
that.
anyway.
forgive me, we have people online. When everybody's talking, it's impossible to understand what's going on. So if we could go one at a time, that'd be great.
thank you. I was actually gonna ask Sarah to move on to her next item, because we do have a couple other items on the agenda once she wraps up.
So, and then just an update on some of the signage. You've probably seen the new intersection and wayfinding signs go up. There's a few that like we've missed, like the sign on the Goranson Park stuff. So that's coming too. The stuff on the trash cans. It's always like the little ones that you forget. And then there's going to be some designs coming down the pipeline for entryway monuments. I don't know if you guys know, but they can be fairly expensive depending on the material, the size, and blah, blah, blah. So that will be probably a discussion that the board has. And then one last thing, Fire and Ice, we have it set for February 8th. Right now, I'm in discussion with Snice Carvings. They do the big snow maze in copper, and then also the one on the top of Keystone. This is all dependent on the approval of the budget, which I will be talking with the board about at the next meeting. But we would love to hire them, have them come in mid-December, build some big snow sculpture, have it up by Christmas. And then they will pop in occasionally to tune that up if needed. And then Fire and Ice, February 8th, we'll do some kind of additional thing to that snow sculpture, maybe have like another ice chimney like we had the first
Illuminate it.
year. Fireworks, bonfire, that kind of thing. So it's a little bit different than what it was the past couple of years. We're getting rid of the snow sculpting championship. So it's just going to be February 8th.
And
that people can view
I'm gonna
it.
punctuate this because it's an opportunity for the businesses here to really have a much bigger window around which to promote. Because instead of having a weekend event, it would be about a month and a half.
Yep.
That sculpture up. And these things, this isn't just the sculptures you've seen in the last few years. This is a
Big.
think of it like an ice building.
Yeah, like kind of what they would do over in like Breck area.
Yeah, it's literally,
similar to-
well, no, the
Oh,
Breck
cool.
one is more individual sculptures. This is much more like Copper and Keystone,
Oh,
where
okay.
it'd be, I mean, the one in Copper is the size of this building,
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's huge.
right?
If not bigger.
Yeah,
Danger, danger.
so she'll be promoting it.
Mhm.
You'll get people on the weekends who want to have a drink, they want to eat some food, etc. And we think it's going to drive a lot more visitation.
Right. And it'll be something that'll be visually appealing. We'll probably have lights on it at night, like different colored lights. So Instagram it and that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
One thing too, I think the flashers on the crosswalks are going in. I
Mhm.
think that's gonna be
Mhm.
huge for all the businesses in our district.
Wait, say that again?
The flashers on the crosswalk, Paul said those are going in before ski
Nice.
season,
That's great.
so
That is
that'll be huge. And we have a center flasher, which Winter Park doesn't have. So on the median, there's a flasher too.
Oh, that's
So,
super important.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that'll be really, really good for us.
Just safety.
Yeah.
To go back to Fire and Ice, because like Lavender Elephant wanted to get involved last year. It was last minute and I was traveling, but is there an presentation of like how the businesses can participate, or like what's the best way to get involved? Or do you want like pop-up tents, or do you want just promotions to come by, offer discounts?
So what we typically do every January is we approach the whole community. This is what we've done in the
Right.
past, the business community through Sarah, with an opportunity for sponsorship, participation to sell, and so forth. We've had Camber in the past has set up and served beer, and that's generally been just for that weekend event.
Right.
We haven't really, I don't think, discussed how we might handle that with the extended sculpture thing, but the Fire and Ice opportunity, we're literally, we don't know how many people come.
Mhm.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's in the thousands.
Yeah.
We'll certainly do that again.
Cool.
And Sarah will be the source of that from the Public Arts Committee.
Yeah, and like last year we had some vendors attend and they got pretty cold. So we're looking into a bigger event tent where they can all take shelter from the cold.
Because then I'm right there in the retail
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
building. And I mean, I don't know what other businesses other than Solstice or the sunglass
Misty's.
place but I was like, "Ugh, I don't really want to cart anything out there, but I also don't want to take people away, but there's a bathroom there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I was just trying to think about how our complex could help or be involved, just to throw that out there.
Okay.
For you to
Yep.
And
mull
we're
over.
open to ideas.
For sure.
One of the things we spend a lot of time on is trying not to overwhelm you folks
Mhm.
and Safeway, because inevitably people try and park there and so forth. So we've tried real hard, especially last year, to provide alternatives and communicate that we don't want you parking there and so
Oh,
forth and
yeah.
so
People
on.
will always park there.
Yeah. It's a pretty big lot.
We try. It is a little bit out of hand, the evening of Fire and Ice, but we also think that it's past time when most businesses are open.
Yeah,
It's
that's what I was
one night.
thinking. It's
Yeah.
pretty vacant.
It's one night.
Yeah. But again, with a month and a half, it might be more of a challenge this year. So again, we're planning for that.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it'll be
Okay.
fun. Awesome. That's it. Any questions? Cool.
I was wondering.
Bravo.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Sarah.
Oh, I'll blow up. Yeah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yay.
That's fun.
Wow. That's not so exciting stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up, we wanted to give you just a couple updates and get a couple thoughts on things regarding the Riverwalk District, visioning and kind of conceptual design updates for Clayton Court. These are not yet finalized, but I'll go ahead and share. We got a grant, I guess that was last year, beginning of this year, through DOLA, so through the state of Colorado's Department of Local Affairs Main Street Live program. The grant was for $1.5 million to put infrastructure in along Clayton Court and try to develop it as a main street. We are finding that the actual budget for the project will be significantly more than $1.5 million. But we've had Merrick Engineering, who is our in-house engineer, working to do the infrastructure design as well as kind of a general streetscape. So there is going to be some overlap between what they've been working on specific to Clayton Court and then Cushing Terrell's kind of general visioning conceptual designs for the Riverwalk district. But I wanted to just briefly share what we have from Merrick in terms of what they're looking for it to kind of look like. So this building up here would be our art center, and then these are the Strom townhomes and bakery that Greg's group's been working on. And he's gonna share some of his designs in just a minute. Oops.
You pretty much have to have car access to those townhomes, don't you? So making that a pedestrian way
Oh, yeah.
would be difficult.
Through the drive. I mean, it's not gonna be heavily trafficked.
Yeah, right.
It's a utility easement. The lot lines don't extend into the access drive. I think if there's not plantings there and there's a footpath that leads to that, people will walk down there once what's south of that is developed. As it sits now, there's a trash enclosure ending kind of the southern access, so I don't see anyone walking into
Okay.
the back of there now, but I do think, I think the pedestrian access will be clear with kind of how they're designing that promenade, come around the bakery anyway, and I don't feel like you'll feel like you're going the long way to go around the bakery.
Yeah.
But
And if the sidewalks are big, it's not that
yeah,
big of a deal.
there's sidewalks are 8.5 feet
Yep.
and heated. People are gonna walk that way anyway.
100%. Because we want it to be, you know, a really attractive pedestrian walkway for retail and hospitality, as well as give residents access.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm realizing, I thought I had pulled up the sketches for further down the street as well, but there is kind of a focus on this initial curve, and then there will be pedestrian a crosswalk in the middle of the block, as well as here at the corners. So that's kind of what they're looking at. I know, I believe he spoke with you, Steve, and is trying to kind of follow the art center's lead in terms of a look. One of the things we've talked about with them is how do you design something that's newer, but make it somewhat congruent with the rest of town, so that there's some flow and it's not this disjointed. You know, we're obviously in Old Town Fraser, and now we're
Yep.
on this new swanky
And
street
we
that,
built a little bit on what Bison had done. So
yeah, doesn't flow. But obviously it's going to be somewhat different than, you know, what like Fisher's or Camber looks like now, right? And so, and then there's a lot of question around, do we go with this funky Fraser, or are we looking for something more upscale, and what that vibe is that we're kind of going for.
Well, and frankly, that's one that I think it would be great if at some point we weighed in, because our conceptual design, for example, is just that. It could change radically from an exterior elevation point of view. But if it's funky Fraser, we're probably thinking using some of that space for murals. If it's upscale, going for something a little bit more, you know, refined, then we wouldn't, or would, you know, approach it. So we have the room to change that, because we don't have blueprints yet.
Right. And Merrick has kind of proposed some different things in terms of benches, bike racks, those sorts of things. I think those elements are easy enough to continue to develop and switch out. And we'll be talking more with Cushing Terrell about what this kind of overlap looks like.
Yep.
You know, it may be that Cushing Terrell proposes one thing, we have what Merrick's proposed in their kind of conceptual design. I know, correct me if I'm wrong, Garrett, but Cushing Terrell is going to be doing some community workshops and presenting their designs next spring.
Yes, that's the plan. And so the plan is to kind of work internally with town staff as well as the DDA through the end of the year, and then on this kind of conceptual design for the Riverwalk District, and then present those to the public early next year, February, March. It's kind of the time frame.
And Garrett has just sent me another one that'll,
So the last two sheets on there kind of show the mid-block.
okay,
and-
great.
Yeah.
I noticed on like the couple, like the 3 different drawings here, they're all the same buildings, just kind of slightly different green space, or landscaping. I would definitely love to encourage green stormwater structures with those green spaces. So those green spaces don't have to be random plots in there. They can actually be functional and help the quality of the Fraser River. Because right now everything is going directly, all of the stormwater is going directly into the Fraser River and contaminating it. We need to treat it before it gets to the Fraser. And all of those tiny little green things can actually be functioning infiltration basins, if they're designed correctly. So we can help with that, and we can have signs so there can be even more education during, like, when people are walking around and everything, but I would definitely try to encourage that for.
I agree, because the private developments on those lots all basically have to have infiltration basins. There's not enough space to make them feasible with ponds and stuff. But the public water that's on that right of way and those pathways is really where the majority of that snow melt
Yeah.
stuff is happening. So I think that's a great
Yeah,
idea.
especially if we're using heated sidewalks. that
So
would
yeah, if we're
dramatically
using
go
heated
up.
sidewalks
Yeah.
and it's all going into that swale goes into the drainage
Yep.
ditch west of your property
Yep.
and into the river.
Yep.
So
But even
I
all
think
of
that's
those, like even a 2 foot by 2 foot, I mean, that's a little too small, but very small little area green spaces can encourage infiltration and treatment before it goes to the water drain. So
what does
if
that
you-
look like for green? And this can be a tangent we could talk about later.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, all we need is a collection area, a green collection area for stormwater to go into. Let's say just like a roof or a driveway or something like that. It has to be in that area for a certain amount of residence time to kind of settle out all the contaminants and the sediment. After a while, you basically design a berm around that, and then if it gets overflown with a bunch of stormwater, then it basically goes into the drain after that. But we encourage the infiltration and treatment before it goes down into the drain. And these basins can be very, very small.
So, but it's a buried basin for the treatment of that.
No, it's just like this rug. It has a little bit of an indent, has native vegetation, very beautiful
Oh.
plants and everything like that. The wastewater goes into that. It settles, there's treatment happening, and if too much stormwater goes into it, there's just a little weir that will go into secondary treatment.
So you're working with existing conditions, you're not excavating and putting in rock and dirt and willows.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a wetland, but it's 10 square feet,
Oh,
5
Okay.
square feet.
that's a great
Um,
idea.
But yeah, it's very popular in the East and the Midwest and everything like that, but I would encourage, that'll help Paul out a lot with his future stormwater design as well. And I have some documents that I can share with the board for
Wonderful.
downtown infrastructure, green infrastructure.
Yeah,
Be
no,
great.
there's a lot of cool stuff out there. And the town's been working with Tiffany and Jeff Elliott from Grand Environmental and UC Wed to do an inventory of our current stormwater drainage and trying to figure out where stuff's coming from and where it's going, and then better design things moving forward. Greener infrastructure.
Okay. Cool.
So this is just kind of a sketch. Again, you can see the art center here, and then you've got the crosswalk in the middle. They've shown some, this is Mural Park. I'll come back to that in a sec. So they've proposed some different things that are going with kind of a more modern, artsy, clean look, in line with, again, kind of the art center. So these blocks are one ideas for benches. This was another bench that had been proposed, these kind of circle rings potentially for bike racks. In talking with some of the different folks on staff here, Joe McDonald was brought in, and he was kind of encouraging us to follow the lead of Mural Park in terms of having more of a flow of the same sort of look. And so Mural Park does have kind of the more geometrically shaped
Can I
concrete.
interject real quick?
Yep.
Based on the vibe that we're trying to pitch with Fraser, all of that is very probably low cost for upkeep, which is great to keep in mind,
Yep.
but it could be way more interesting. And Colfax just did a huge revitalization. Obviously it's a different region. It's not even Colfax, sorry. Downtown Denver, some region, I can't remember. Metro, thank you. But they had some really cool concepts that are a little bit more in line with the brand.
The funky eclectic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I'm sharing it. So we don't have a ton of time to do a deep dive, but if there is any initial feedback.
Yeah.
And then with Cushing Terrell, they are presenting hopefully to town staff sometime in November some of their conceptual designs, and then we're planning to bring it to the GDA board for input at our December meeting. So we will have time to, maybe we can dedicate that whole board meeting more or less if we need to.
Be careful you don't build a skate park over there with those benches.
Right.
If you get
That's
enough
the
of that sort of stuff in, row, you're gonna be like literally chasing kids off all day.
Yeah.
That's a good
And I can
point.
tell you that there is a whole town full of skateboarders that live in YPD.
Yeah.
So watch it. I'm sure Greg doesn't want everything being vandalized.
Yeah.
Because those right there, that is skateboard central.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Everything
really
They
good
will
point.
get waxed. They will get
Come down the
destroyed.
stairs.
Promise you.
Jump on the bed.
I promise.
Can
Yeah.
you skate off of it?
I can
Yeah.
skate that and I'm 37, so that's how I'm terrible at it.
Send these out too. Some of these I personally am not as much of a fan of, but Joe McDonald had kind of tried to pull some together to get some thoughts on. So if anybody does have thoughts or if anything jumps out as a strong yay or nay,
So those are cool.
these come in all
Yeah,
different
that-
colors, but the picture was only yellow.
Get skated for sure. Those are not gonna get skated though. Those metal benches, those won't.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the drip through too. Just
Yeah.
nice for
Yeah.
the winter, like
Yeah.
you said, concrete
Mhm.
slabs.
Oh, yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, these
It is
come in
nice.
all sorts of
Just put it
colors
out
if you
there.
want the more
I mean,
colorful look.
Just cold.
I mean, I like Fraser right now, we have all the different ski lift benches.
Yeah.
They're all
Yeah.
unique,
Yes.
like,
yeah, that's.
so I think like monotone seating places doesn't really go with the vibe already in
Totally.
place.
Okay.
I think like the uniformity should come through the signage. And it's like, all right, we're in Fraser. There's a
Bingo.
Fraser sign and everything else. That's my,
Have fun with it.
Yeah.
Have fun with it, right, that's what makes it fun.
But obviously upkeep and skate, like having that list on there, because we don't want anything that's gonna like deteriorate, you know.
Well, and I think fun benches or bike racks is just an easy way to add a unique touch. And
Yeah.
like I always notice them when I'm somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll keep talking about this stuff, but just wanted to kind of show you what was going on. We've got about 10 minutes left. So wanted to give Greg a few minutes to show you guys what he's been working on. Do you want me just to pull it up, Greg?
sure,
Okay.
if you have that, yeah, revised plan.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing I did pull up beforehand, but give me just a second. I'll pull it up from our agenda.
Is that 655 Yampa right on that Riverwalk area?
That's
Yeah,
what
I
we're
think I was
modeling
just
to
in
send
front of
from
this.
after, yeah. So we have another sketch plan on that, Clayton Court Street that Sarah was just showing. We have the townhomes that are going in right now. And then in the center of the street, we control the two old trailer park parcels at the south end of the street. So it's about 2 acres combined, quarter acre lot where we have the Strom townhomes up north, and then obviously the art center's doing their thing. So about half of the available land there is planned to be developed in the next couple of years. This is the first phase of that southern site. And really, we modeled it after 655 Yampa, which is in Steamboat. If you've
Great.
been there, they have
Okay.
really kind of small retail on the first floor. patios for the condos or townhomes above, and then setback living space. So it's not just a big wall of big wall of a building kind of right in your face. It'll hopefully bring a lot more light down to that sidewalk level throughout the day if we can duplicate on both sides. And really just from a feasibility standpoint, very small footprint retail is the only thing that I feel comfortable building on Clayton Court right now. It's tough to say I'm gonna go build 4,000 square feet of retail on a street with
Yeah.
no one
Yep.
else down there and mobile homes for the next 3-4 years, you know?
Yep.
So I think that's something that's just really important to keep in the back. I keep in the back of my mind is how do we set these businesses up to be successful? This sort of design gives us the ability to create cutouts for pedestrian access into that 20 feet of retail that's required fronting Clayton Court. So the experience is really nice.
So I'm curious, now is that on the riverside?
No, so
This is
that would
the
be fronting
Clayton-
Clayton Court
Okay.
on the west side of Clayton Court.
Okay.
And yeah, if you go back to this, I can kind of just talk through it real quick. So the north, if you scroll that way and then zoom in just to one hair. So the north, we're talking about just the north side of that 150 Clayton Court property that has the light green, blue, and faded green there.
Mhm.
So we're proposing a public park that's about 3,800 square feet on the north side of that property. That will align pretty closely to that center crosswalk across Clayton Court that Sarah was just showing. We think it'll be a really good community space to, you know, not really compete with what goes on out here, but offer another space for an event like that to take place. And then the whole idea is to, like we did on Strom, have one curb cut for, this is like 350 feet of frontage, to just have one curb cut that will serve a drive aisle for this property and then eventually go into a garage for the next property or drive aisle. But we're going to be doing phase 1 this upcoming spring. So it'll be the retail, 5 townhomes, slightly changing the layout of that blue box. And then the other thing we're putting in is the pedestrian connection from 40 to Clayton Court through the site. So there's a crosswalk there right across from like Sharky's and the bus stop.
Mhm.
And we're trying to line up a ADA accessible pedestrian path through our property from that crosswalk. And that'd be something we're gonna go after. Apparently there's grant funding out there for that. And that's something we're gonna try to incorporate into the site in phase 1, so that our goal is to basically, you come into Clayton Court from the south end or from the north end on Fraser Avenue, but there's a couple pedestrian paths in between that line up with the crosswalks just to get people down there, and hopefully businesses bought in on, you know, renting or buying space down there. So,
Can you go back to the visual of the building? Sorry.
Yep.
Like, I know we're running out of time.
Mhm.
Yep.
It looks awesome.
yeah, and
Good.
that's, I mean, ours won't be cut out quite as much as that because our curb cut's behind the building. So we'll have about 1,500 to 2,000 square feet of retail there, which will be nice. And I think is as big as we could probably go with nothing else on the street
What
right
was
now.
the square footage of the retail?
1,500 to 2,000.
That's big.
Yeah. So we have a guy in mind. He's really good restaurateur looking to do 2 concepts with a shared kitchen.
Could you,
Nice.
have you
We need
seen
a
what Grand Lake did
restaurant.
with the opening of the garage doors to create more of an outdoor eating, seasonal outdoor eating?
Yeah,
Which
with
is hard.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and that's something we could do here. I think we just have to look at like sidewalk space, what the town will let us do on that 8.5 foot sidewalk. Right now, we're assuming we can't even open a door into that 8.5 foot sidewalk.
Right.
But I mean, if there's some flexibility there, that's a super easy add, and I love that.
It's really appealing.
Yeah, yeah.
With the umbrellas and like that seasonal, I mean, it's so short, right? That we get to embrace that, but to be able to close it. I think Simple has one. You put one on the side at first.
Yeah, they both have garage
Yeah.
doors, which when they're nice out, they're kick-ass, even though they're on 40.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Just stuff. Cool.
It's great.
Is there any green space between the buildings and the river? Not, I know your initial building is too tight.
So if you go back to that sketch plan, so we're only designing half of the western lot west of Clayton Court right now. This was something that came up when I walked it with Michael and Brian, though.
Yeah.
For that site to the east. So basically the blue building would be our phase one, the orange building would be our phase two. And then the stuff on the east of Clayton Court, just west of the river, would be phase three.
Okay.
And I would personally love to include as much space between development and the river and as much open river path to restaurant space, hopefully on the river there. From a feasibility standpoint, if we're gonna give a bunch of room from the river beyond what's required, that would probably come with a height increase or reduction in parking ask on my end, just to
Right.
kind of balance it out. But I think once we have some built product there, townhomes will be a little bit below 40. Second phase will probably be 45. Once you have that there, adding in a 50 or 55-foot piece of a development, it's not going to be a 55-foot box. Doesn't really look that jarring, but that's a discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is also putting the cart miles ahead of the
Yeah,
horse.
yeah,
But one of the ideas that I've got for when we have the center, if I have a act coming in on a Friday, I could contract with them to do a lunch excerpt. So 20 minutes of the Japanese drums, or 20 minutes of blues, or 20 minutes of something or other. And if there are businesses on the river and we have still access to that grant, part of which had money in there for a small outdoor amphitheater or something like that, I could easily see something built along the river with businesses open to it, and
Yeah.
we could do promotions that, on Friday in the summer, you can come out and have lunch, and at noon there'll be a short performance, and people could enjoy that.
Yeah.
And it would
that-
add a reason to come downtown.
That's our goal. Like the town code says retail on the street. Like our goal is to have retail and commercial on the river. We just kind of got to go step by step.
Yeah.
So we got a
Yeah.
750 square foot bakery going in first. I think they're going to kill it. We can sign them on 40. Then we got slightly bigger. We'll go slightly bigger with 40
Yep.
views. And by the time we get to that phase three, I'm hopeful that
Yeah.
it's not as much of a leap of faith to build something.
And maybe the art center isn't just the leap of faith
Yeah,
either.
yeah.
100%. But
So,
the
yeah.
cool thing is we're all willing to do that,
Yeah.
and it drives business for everybody.
Yeah.
Mhm. So that's, yeah. Kind of.
And this future in the orange garage,
Mhm.
hopefully someday that'll be like a parking garage structure.
So
something
that would
big.
be, that would be a garage for that space and the businesses with then built residential product above it, retail and residential above it.
Okay.
I think the best place, if there is a garage, I've started to hear some comments, whether it's good or bad, I don't know. But I think Wally's parcel to the north of that proposed park is the most logical place for one to go downtown.
To the north?
To the north of that green park, there's Wally Alves's big parcel that's behind the wash house.
Are you talking about, oh, okay, yeah.
That's like the only
Oh,
place
right.
I think that
Yeah.
makes real sense. to
Gotcha.
fit- To
Yeah.
fit.
Where's
Yeah.
the bridge?
Yeah, you're right.
The Grand
Unless it's like well, I guess it's probably better because then you're walking down through versus back through, like if it was on the other side or something, like say
Yeah.
the old Finnegan lot there.
Yeah.
That'd be cool, but the issue is then they're walking back this way.
Yeah, so like, I think parking's gotta continue to be,
Yeah.
Gotta
fought
be.
for and
Wow.
figured out, but I think there's a lot of cool pedestrian and accessibility access to that Clayton Court corridor specifically that,
Is Grand Kids
See.
Bridge like way further?
so that's just north of Strom.
Okay.
If you do those.
No, I think
So
that's
between the green and the
logical.
blue.
I'd say, just from
See.
like a vision
Yeah,
idea, I think that's logical.
That's awesome.
Oh, I see.
and then as far as like look and feel of stuff, I know that building that we just built has people who like it and people who don't, from like the facade look. We're doing all kind of natural materials, so if it's a steel, it's like a kind of natural look steel or black, and then stained cedar. If we're using stone, something kind of natural but clean lines. We really do like, I know there's been some discussion on like roof lines. We really do like the flat roof system just for how it performs with how kind of structural engineers have come in the last 10 years. They really perform well up here with the interior drains. So
Hmm.
something to think about.
So are they heated? Is that how
No,
they deal with the
no.
snow?
So you can do decks up top or what?
No, just from how they like, so the interior drain, if you think like you can drain a roof, shed it, or put a gutters system
Right.
on it with heat trace. Trying to avoid gutters and heat trace is like the main goal, especially for the downtown
Right.
district where you
Like
don't want
falling
it
ice is
over
bad.
sidewalk.
No, I like that, yeah.
And like, so the flat roofs, like I know a lot of people don't like them, but they really do perform well. And I think in a downtown area, like even though we have some slope on Coastal, they slope to flat roofs and drain interior, and it's just better performance.
You don't
than-
think that you'll get like 8 feet of snow on top of that thing before it melts?
You could, but that's okay. Like they're
Okay.
built now to hold you know,
Whatever.
a couple trucks up there too.
Alright.
Like
And then
they're
the drains go into where?
the drains come through the conditioned space of the building and then into the ground, into an infiltration basin, and then eventually out to the river.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's like-
or wherever drainage connection is eventually to the river.
Right.
I would kind of encourage that blue, like the blue construction to maybe push some stormwater into the park, and have some.
Yeah.
green
So we have to
infiltration.
move, there's a raw water line and a well behind that building, so we have to move that line. So we're gonna be doing a bunch of underground work and can definitely push it to the park. Yeah, that's a great idea. And we offered, I mean, we offered the park to the town. So we wanted more than the town like has the ability to give us for giving a park, but we'll get out of our park impact fee. But if the town takes ownership of that, yeah, I'm happy. I don't know how we come up with that, but we'll come up with it.
Yeah.
Is the geothermal thing still in play or is
I
this
don't
too
think
far
so.
ahead?
Yeah, we had to jump ship, unfortunately, at least for the Victoria Village side of things. We were worried that it was gonna push actually Victoria Village is now St. Louis Landing, if you haven't heard, it's been
Oh,
renamed.
yeah.
We were concerned that it might push the project back further beyond next year, which we just didn't think was palatable. Like people need the housing and the childcare. And with Clayton Court, there's so much infrastructure already crammed in there that we don't think it's going to be feasible.
Okay.
If there's annexation to the north, particularly around the wastewater treatment plant, we think there'd be great opportunities there. But for now, unfortunately, we won't have the geothermal.
Yeah, we don't want that to be annexed. I don't want it to be developed.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably that ship has sailed.
You have one question. It's just an artistic thing, but is planting like the planting of mature trees on the perspective
So
for
this is
shade
something
and
that, so
um,
I plan to landscape everything and do, especially when we're interacting with the river and stuff, and all of our green space be planted. That was one reason I wanted to give the park to the town, is then they can go nuts with the planting.
yeah,
The code currently does not require for mixed use developments, which all of ours and everything on that street will have to be a landscaping plan.
mhm,
If you provide a landscaping plan, and correct me if I misstate anything, if you provide a landscaping plan, then you're gonna be held to that landscaping plan. So even if I wanna provide landscaping, I really don't wanna provide a landscaping plan, because then I'm held to that plan. And also I have to provide surety against that budget. So this is something I talked to Garrett about, is like the incentive for me is just to say, I'm not landscaping.
right.
Because it's not a code requirement, and maybe, you know, the board will say, well,
Interesting.
we won't approve it, and then it starts to get muddy, you know, because it's like,
Huh.
it's not a code requirement.
Right.
But,
Interesting.
so we'll come up with something, I think, that works for both parties, and maybe it's a different surety amount. And
Cause I
something
might have
to-
understood that correctly with how much vegetation will be leaving maybe. But even on that concrete valley, you know, you never want things to just turn gray.
So
and
like the
even-
concrete,
And the front end too, like even just where the eateries are, like, would there be tree structures?
well, I think in the public improvements for Clayton Court, there are some plantings.
I think it's gonna be pretty limited. We don't have a lot of right of way to work in, for the road, the sidewalk, to add in a bunch of landscaping. But at least at where the curb bumps out, so like at the mid-block crossing that, Sarah showed earlier, there'd be some landscaping there. But I think there likely would not be, you know, trees along Clayton Court, if that makes sense.
Cause I mean, even Metro, they'll have like a single tree, Like it's, although it's, I'm sure that single tree is costly, but
Yeah.
the single tree with the drainage. Cause even that, it doesn't have to be full bed, full median, full, you know.
Yeah, when we were discussing the streetscape for Clayton Court, and had our head gardener there, that was my question, like, where are the trees? And I think it is difficult in the limited space in our
Right.
climate here. Like, there's few trees that would be easy to maintain. They do have planters with flowers.
If we get
Interesting.
But
tall buildings and lots of shade.
Also snow removal too. Like,
right, yeah, it is just, it's a really small street, and we're already kind of pushing to try to extend that right of
think-
way.
One area though, there is some wetlands on that like phase 3 portion on the southeast corner of Clayton Court. There's a lot of wetlands that are undevelopable there. So a lot of those willows will stay. That's a good opportunity for planting and picnic
Right.
tables and stuff. So at that end of the street, which is kind of the entrance to Clayton Court from the south, there will be a lot of, you know,
Green.
green
It sounds like
space
it's on
and
your
stuff.
court, like your.
Maybe the
radar.
arts center can throw a big tree in over there or something.
Tree, well, in that space in between the.
Yeah, there, and there's that, that's actually a good point is
Yeah.
the access from the river trail to the north end of Clayton Court is planned to be a very open kind of green
Yep.
space.
Yeah.
So
Cause it's a trail connector and it's where we're gonna commemorate our founders. So we want it to be a place people congregate.
yeah.
I like it.
All right.
Make a motion to
Excited.
adjourn.
I have one quick thing.
Okay.
Just meeting time. I am out the next 2 meetings again. And I realize that I am literally on planes a lot on Tuesday mornings. So I can't even call in. I'm one person, I get it, but I just didn't know if maybe even like New Year, we could think about a new day and time, but I can't make November or December. And it really pulls me out of what's going on. It's really hard if you're not here.
Yeah.
Consideration.
Yeah.
What about earlier?
No.
Well,
not a
I'd be
plane.
in the car likely down to
It's
the
not a plane.
airport to go out. I like early mornings. We talked about this before,
Yeah,
but
so do I.
So what days of the week do?
I
do
usually
you-
travel on Tuesday morning. I noticed that. I
And then
thought it
you're-
was Monday,
okay.
but I'm usually in the office Monday and then leave Tuesday morning,
Okay.
whatever flight I can get out in the morning. So
Okay.
I'm
And
flexible.
that's all month, like it's not, even if we did like a fourth Tuesday
usually,
versus
so
second
this,
Tuesday.
also the second Tuesday, I have a board meeting in Maryland I have to be at. So I'm usually flying out there. I mean, again, I know I'm one person, so I don't want to change everybody's schedules, but
It's good to know.
I missed like, I think the last 3 and I had to spend hours just catching up.
Yeah.
And I'd love to be more involved, so.
I wonder if at our next meeting, we could add that as an agenda item to
Absolutely.
relook at.
I won't
for
be
the
here,
meeting
so.
schedule. That's true, that's true.
So,
But
I will
there's-
be on a plane, like literally, because otherwise I would put
Always
votes
Tuesday.
in.
Just give us your kind of preferences and then we
Okay.
can try and work.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think any other day at this time would be better.
Yeah,
Okay.
well.
Even
But I'll
the-
put it,
If
I'll,
we get 8
I'll
inches
share
or
it with
more,
someone.
I'm not gonna be here, so.
We talked about the fourth Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, I think I know it doesn't coincide with that board meeting, so it gives me more flexibility to block my schedule.
Of fourth Tuesday.
Initially,
does.
we
And that's
were
what we talked
looking at
about
either
originally.
Monday or Tuesday mornings, and they both seem to work for most people. I can't
Yeah.
remember
Yeah,
why
I'm
we
good with
chose
Monday
Tuesdays
or
versus
Tuesday.
Mondays.
I don't remember either. I think I
They
said I
both are
was
about the
okay
same
on
to me.
Tuesdays, but
Yeah,
it's been bad.
yeah. Okay.
So maybe I'll look at Monday
Why don't
too, maybe.
You
guys
and
can
I
discuss it.
talk
Okay,
before our next
okay.
meeting and help me clearly understand your schedule as best I can.
Yeah,
Cool.
Okay.
okay, thank
Exactly.
you.
A 30-second thing on December the 7th, from the early afternoon until about 7 o'clock, Fraser Valley Arts will be hosting and promoting, with the help of the town, a holiday market in all of the establishments. A number of them, that this Fraser River Brewery, the distillery, Camber have already said would like to do it. Birdie Lounge, Simple Coffee. If your organization would like to participate, all it requires is you host some artists. We'll fit that number of artists to your space. And we're just trying to draw a lot of people to our community to both eat, drink, and see some art. Let me
Cool.
know if you're interested.
You said
Can
that's December
you
7th at
send
what
me
time?
some information so I can give to the Fraser Professional Building?
Sure.
And I might want to then
Well, why don't I do this? I'll send some information to Sarah. Could you just circulate it?
Thank you.
Cool. That's exciting.
Fun. That's a cool concept.
Cool
And-
stuff
and
happening
it's
in Fraser.
All
Thank you.
over Fraser Valley artists. So this is our part of our
Oh, I
mission
see.
is be a catalyst for
Yeah.
local artists. So we're trying real hard to provide them a low cost opportunity and drive people into your businesses.
Cool.
Awesome.
And set up to one centralized location.
Yeah.
Which I like.
Yeah.
Cool.
Make a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Well,
Second.
second.
Jen, thank you.
Great. Thank you all.